Hey everybody, hope you guys are healthy and safe. So this is the Realme 9 Pro Plus. I've been testing this for the past 10 days. So this phone is launching in India today, and I believe it will also reach parts of Europe. Now I don't know the official price of this phone yet, but there are rumors online that say this specific model, the Pro Plus model, will go on sale for around 24,000 Indian rupees, which converts to around 330 US dollars. Now that's higher than usual for a Realme device because Realme's a number series. They usually go on sale for around 250 US dollars, like equivalent of that. So I'm hoping it drops more towards that price range because for 330, I think it's a little bit high, but we'll get back to that later. So for apparently $330, this is what you get. You have a 6.4-inch OLED display, 90 Hz refresh rate, FHD plus resolution. You have a MediaTek 920 SoC inside. It's a 6nm chip. It supports 5G, but obviously not a tip-top Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 like flagship performance. But you know, Geekbench numbers are still pretty respectable. And throughout my 10 days of use, I've been playing games on this, going on Instagram, sending emails, have had no issues, except every now and then I will notice animation stutters when I'm like scrolling or like closing app, stuff like that. Now you have this back material that it's quite visually appealing. It reflects lights at various angles and shimmers under the sun. Unfortunately, it is plastic, but there's a coating on it that makes it feel less plasticky. It's also pretty grippy without attracting fingerprints too. But the highlight of this phone, it's the main camera. So this is a 50 megapixel main camera using Sony's IMX766 image sensor. In fact, Realme is advertising this as the very first phone in the lower mid-tier budget price range to use an IMX766 camera sensor. In fact, they actually sent over the sensor. It's a tiny little thing, but it is pretty cool because the IMX766 is the same camera sensor used in the Oppo Find X3 Pro. Rumors say it will also be the camera used in the Oppo Find X5 Pro, along with like the Xiaomi 12 and the Honor Magic 3 Pro. So that means the IMX766 is a camera sensor that have been used in a lot of flagship phones. But now you're getting this on a device that's around $330. And then you have a 2 megapixel macro sensor here. You have a 4,500 mAh battery inside that can be charged at 65 watt fast charging speeds, and the charging brick is included with packaging. Down here you have a headphone jack and you have stereo speakers. And I'm happy to report that the haptic engine in this phone is really good. I enjoy typing on this phone. And around the front you have a 16 megapixel selfie camera. The phone runs on Android 12 with Realme UI 3.1 on top. Realme UI 3.1 looks and feels exactly like ColorOS to me, which is not a bad thing because I actually really like ColorOS. You know, I've gone on record saying this before. I like all the shortcut gestures, like swipe up with 3 fingers to go into multitasking, swipe down with 3 fingers to grab a screenshot. You can double tap on the screen to turn off the display, double tap to turn it back on. You have all these customization options, like you can change how an icon look in terms of shape, but also size. You can change the font of the phone's UI. It's just a lot of customization that you don't get in an iPhone or even a Google Pixel now. And yet there is an in-display fingerprint sensor in here, and it works fast and accurately. Now the 4,500 mAh battery in here, it's more than enough to power this phone all day because this is only a 90 Hz panel, so it's not like the crazy super zippy 120 Hz animation. On like a 12-hour day, I would still finish with over 25% battery life left. So this is a phone that if you're not a heavy user, you can probably go a day and a half. Now let's talk about the camera performance. So the IMX766 sensor, like I said, it's a sensor used in a lot of flagship phones, and for good reason. So first of all, 50 megapixel, I find that it's a happy balance. I think 108 megapixels is actually too many pixels because the more pixels you have, the more light you need. So it's actually maybe not a great thing to have 108 megapixel sensor. That's why the Google Pixel 6 and the Vivo X70 Pro Plus, in my opinion, the 2 best camera phones, they both use 50 megapixel sensors. So the 50 megapixel sensor here, it gets binned down to 12.5, so you're getting a 12.5 megapixel output, but with 50 million pixels worth of information in there. The image sensor size is 1 over 1.56 inch, which is pretty large even for a flagship phone. So for a phone at the $300 price range, This is really good. What that means when you have such a large image sensor is you can pour in more light naturally and you have a shallow depth of field. So when you bring a phone close to something, you see this creamy, natural focus drop off, the creamy depth of field blur. And the camera focuses really fast too. So for the most part, the main camera sensor here is really good. Now the ultra wide angle camera, 8 megapixel sensor, so during the day is fine, but at night it suffers a lot unless you turn on night mode. If you turn on night mode, then you will get a much better image, but night mode doesn't always work well because you have to hold still and whatever you're shooting cannot move. So if you're shooting an animal, if you're shooting a kid, if you're shooting moving cars, night mode does not work. The macro sensor, it's okay, as you can see from these photo samples here. The details are a little bit soft overall, but you can get relatively close to a subject. Now video performance is where this phone lets me down a little bit. So the IMX766 has OIS built inside, but you only get video stabilization when you're shooting in 1080p. If you shoot in 4K, there is no stabilization at all. Also, when you're filming video, you cannot switch out to the ultra wide camera. If you want to shoot video with the ultra wide, you have to stop recording, switch to the ultra wide, and then start filming there. And then when you're filming ultra wide, you also cannot switch back to the main camera. You have to stop recording again to switch lenses. And the selfie camera video is okay. You only get 1080p resolution max. You can't shoot 4K. How do I sound right now? There's a lot of traffic noise behind me. So let me step into a quieter street, but the sound you're hearing is just coming directly from the mic. Seems kind of shaky though. I am walking like downhill right now. So overall, the Realme 9 Pro Plus has several good things going for it. The main camera is above average for a phone with this price point. This is a pretty good camera day and night for this price range. You also have really good battery life. You're getting at least a day on this battery life, maybe even a day and a half. And I'm a big fan of the software running on this phone, Realme UI/ColorOS. I think this might be my favorite Android skin right now. You also have a pretty comfortable in-hand feel and stereo speakers that sound pretty good. However, I am not a fan of the plastic back, and I think for $330, you should give us a glass back, or if you're gonna give us a plastic back, then lower the price of this thing to $280. But again, I don't know the official price yet. That 24,000 rupee was just the rumor price I've seen online. Maybe it's actually lower than this. I think if this phone falls under 280 US dollars, it's a pretty good deal and worth considering. If it's gonna be $330, then there are other better options on the market. So that's about it for this review of the Realme 9 Pro Plus. I have a lot more content coming this month, so if you're interested in keeping up to date with all the latest smartphone stuff, please subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram at Ben's Gadget Reviews. Thanks for watching.